Hello, LOC community. My name is Richie Jones. I am here at Contact in the Desert with a former guest of ours, Miss Laura Eisenhower, and she has had quite the weekend here. Friday, I went to 3 of your events. You had her lecture, she had her workshop, and she was also on the Secret Space Program panel. So, Laura, how has your weekend been here at Contact in the Desert 2017?
I'm having such a blast. I mean, it's almost like every moment is fun, and it's incredible because the amount of consecutive minutes that are just amazing. I think is a record in my whole existence. The community here is amazing. The opportunity to have a voice and have so much talk time, is incredible. So to come in and then have Friday be, just a couple hours of an opportunity to share my information, including a panel with David Wilcock, who's amazing, and a lot of other great panel guests. I'm thrilled, and just all the hugs and all the support. 2017 is just this is filling me up for this good energy is going to last. And it's filled my heart for sure.
So your workshop was on the avatar consciousness. And speaking of those higher vibrations, when we achieve that higher consciousness level through our galactic chakras, what do you think is truly going to change in this world?
Well, I truly believe or sense that we float into those chakras a lot. The thing is though, there's a sort of separation between the higher and lower self. So we might find ourselves floating into those higher states of awareness, but we're not anchoring it and grounding it in the physical. So there's still this division where, okay, we might stick with that job we don't like, or, compromise ourselves to friends and partners that might not be the healthiest for us. But what it's all about is, okay, we have these galactic chakras. For us to initiate into the ascension energies, we have to recognize we are the ascension. The shift is coming through us. We are the conduits. We need to be working with things like tuning forks and sound healing to help our frequencies align with the light codes coming in, because we're dealing with a lot of dark technologies that are scrambling them, and there's artificial intelligence signals that can steer us away from what's available. And so it's really important, that we recognize what it means to bring the energy into the root, which means that you kind of walk the talk. Whatever higher epiphany you have, you make it a way of life. You set an intention. You make life changes that match that frequency. And you start to live the life of your dreams, and the life that Gaia will help support. You'll notice magic, miracles, synchronicities versus just sort of the false rewards that the Matrix provides, which is only a false ego construct that we need to, pretty much walk away from.
You speak a lot about the 8th chakra and how that brings psychic attachments, psychic attacks, things like that. For those people who have reached the 7th chakra, let's say, and kind of backed away, what advice would you have for them to kind of break through that 8th chakra to get through to connect to the higher consciousness levels?
I think it's really important to learn about crystals and stones and herbs, because they're going to help supplement some of the, if you feel uprooted, or if you feel an anxiety attack, or you feel a psychic attack. If you're carrying shungite, it's going to soak it up. It's going to protect your energy field. We need to be armored and not in battle mode where we get drained. So being armored, is being nourished. And there's amazing herbs, and there's incredible stones. I mean, all you need to do is look up crystal or stone that can protect my auric field, and that's going to help. And so just be diligent. Just know that we're definitely all required to recognize the transition that we need to make into the 8th. Once we make it into the 8th, then the rest switch on pretty quickly. But it's between the 7th and 8th that we struggle the most, because we feel something pushing us away. So just breathe through it, recognize anything that sort of makes you feel triggered or uncomfortable while you're sort of trying to progress on your soul or spiritual journey. Get tools, get modalities, get allies. tuning forks are great, crystal bowls, Tibetan bowls. Listen to music that is tuned to a frequency that, like 432 hertz. And laugh. Laugh. The stuff that gets real heavy and serious. The highest vibration and really one of the highest spiritual abilities is one's ability to laugh and enter the realms of humor. If we take it all too seriously and too personally, it kind of keeps us stuck. If we are able to initiate things like chemtrails and the toxicity that's in our environment will not impact us. We actually have an immunity. And it's simple. We think it might be complex or we need this or that from some sort of expert. You can just Google and you can just laugh and stick with the things that are organic: herbs, sound healing, crystals, and stones.
I know you're very connected higher up, but I also feel you have a great connection to the earth as well. What do you think people need to get back into the habits of doing as to respecting Gaia, getting back to that universal consciousness of taking care of the planet that takes care of us?
I mean, this planetary body is made of unconditional love. The Nag Hammadi even talks about this. When we sank from Tara, which was dimensions 4, 5, and 6, into harmonic universe 1, which is dimensions 1, 2, and 3, and became the planet Earth, the goddess energy actually morphed into the planet and seeded it with a 13-dimensional monadic core. So it's an ascension planet. People call it like a 3D Earth, but it's not true. The 3D Earth is what the Matrix is trying to keep us stuck in. It's actually beyond our 12-strand capacity. The 13th gate connects with the Mother Earth, and the 13th gate also connects with the 0-point energy and the neutron window that brings us back into alignment with Andromeda. And when Milky Way and Andromeda are one, which they are right now, we've really completed this ascension process through receiving those frequencies and integrating it, which helps us to awaken our divine template, which represents that divine union. Now, because we're in a free will universe, that divine union got disrupted, and so we had the Orion Wars and all these different things, and we lost our avatar consciousness with what happened in Lyra. And so we're rebuilding, and we're also recovering from the exploded planets like Maldek and Tiamat. So, it's been a sort of process. But we win the war within. Just know that it's all about being sovereign and protecting your consciousness and knowing that you're a creative being. So make sure that create what you want to create. You're the empowered scriptwriter. If you don't like what you're seeing in the news, if you don't like the projections that are being tossed at you, have a boundary. You're powerful enough to create your own reality. If you're not liking the stuff that's being offered to you, write it down, energize it, and recognize we're super advanced. And this is what these times are about. We're functioning probably at a 3-strand, 4-strand DNA level, and this planetary body, including us, can activate all the way to the 12 and 13. And that's when we recognize that we're the advanced technology. Transhumanism is a trap because it's trying to supplement that. It's trying to replace that. And culture is trying to convince us that we're not powerful enough to be able to do that ourselves. And that's a trap.
You just spoke of the 13th gate. Can you go into detail a little about where the 13th gate is?
Well, supposedly it's in the core of the planet, the inner sun. But it was not able to be grounded in the planet because when we sank into the lower density, there were catastrophes and cataclysms. We had the Lemurian Holocaust, we had the Atlantean cataclysms, we had the electrical wars, we had the Nephilim wars, we had the Sumerian Egyptian invasion, where our DNA, every Anunnaki, factions, negative Anunnaki factions, messing with our DNA. There's been a number of seedings of the human race. So when we fell into this lower harmonic universe, and the mother energy, the goddess energy, recognized that souls were being hybridized and they were being taken further and further away from source, and these lower creator gods were acting as, the main rulers, distorting history and manipulating. That's why the mother energy decided to morph into the physical planet. And morphing into the physical planet meant that the goddess energy, the mother, part of God's source is the vibration of this planetary consciousness. And it's also a part of our own personal tree of life. We're dealing, though, on a humanity level with the tree of knowledge, which is duality. And the tree of knowledge is representative of our DNA. The snake energy would be representative of our kundalini. And knowledge has been targeted with mind control. So on our quest for knowledge, we end up getting distracted with all this other crap. But when it all comes down to it, when we can step away from that and recognize the path of knowledge and seeing things for what they are, everything starts to switch on. So the 13th gate is supposedly in the core of the planet, but it wasn't able to come back into the planet because it was in such a low vibration until 2009. And that's when it went from the hosting of the Ascension timeline, which was the Melchizedek hosting, but the Melchizedek kind of turned patriarchal, and it didn't go so well. But 2009 to 2012 is when the Ascension timeline was given back to the goddess frequency and the override frequency, and guardian groups like the Crystal Star and the Aurora, and Corey talks about the sphere beings, and the 13-dimensional core was able to anchor back into the physical planet. And 2010 was a time where the sun started to pass through the 13th sign in the galactic zodiac, which is Ophiuchus. And Ophiuchus is representative of the divine feminine. The elements that Ophiuchus is ruled by is actually the ether. There's no other sign that is ruled by the ether. And there's no other sign that's ruled by an asteroid, and Ophiuchus is ruled by the asteroid Chiron, which is the wounded healer. So for us to really help activate the 13th gate, which helps us to move into the 7 higher heavens that we lost connection with about 26,000 years ago, and we've been dealing with the dark technologies like the Nephilim reversal grid that's impacted our DNA and the grids. As we move into these activations, we need to reassure ourselves that these dark technologies will be neutralized. Implants will be neutralized. All these assaults, even chemtrails, will be neutralized. Know that it's written in the cosmos, the energies of ascension. It's encoded in us. It's encoded in nature. Anything that tries to stop it is very much on a lower scale. It might be a bully, but it does not have power over us. And sometimes the bully intimidates us into fear and that feeling of doom and gloom. But just remember, when you see it, let it remind you of how powerful you are. Turn the weapon into a tool that's going to help empower you. And then they got nothing on you when you turn the weapon into a tool.
You just spoke about Chiron. A lot of people don't understand like the asteroids and everything like that. So what could you tell our listeners more about Chiron and Tiamat and everything of that time frame?
Gosh, Tara, dimensions 4, 5, and 6. When we look at that, it's like, well, what is 4, 5, and 6? What are these numbers connected to dimensions? Or when people talk about 5D ascension? Well, I mean, we have a chakra system, and it corresponds with our DNA. We're in a replica, actually, of the energy meridians and the multidimensional cosmos and the 15-dimensional time matrix. When we were on Tara, a very advanced humanoid. You always got to add that noid, right? Whatever that means. I haven't quite figured that one out. Reptoid, humanoid. There was an experimental thing going on with seeding a very advanced humanoid race. That was the original Atlantis and Lemuria. Some of the names are impronounceable, but one of them is the Orifim consciousness. And they were basically created to offset the galactic wars so that it was pretty much ensured that what we carry in our template was powerful enough to defeat the enemy, I guess you could say. But we're in a free will universe, and it's easy to manipulate souls. We had the Lucifer rebellions. There's been a number of Lucifer rebellions. And when you start to deal with an entity like that who draws in other groups, and you're dealing with fallen races, like the wars between the fallen Elohim and Seraphim, and this Luciferian entity that, wants to be the false light and wants to be the ruler and the god, and it starts to pull those advanced souls away from what they embody, and they begin to digress, and the imbalance begins to set in. the energies of Tiamat and Apsu, which we hear about in mythology, which were the original sacred union in the cosmos, Tiamat representing sort of the Sophia energy and Apsu like the divine masculine sort of Christ energy, sort of like an outer manifestation of that template on a physical kind of planetary star system level. Anyway, because it's a free will universe and the negative ego began to start to hybridize and manipulate, and these wars were happening, and they kept getting stepped down into the human experiments as we see today. We're sort of the prize, and we're sort of caught in the middle of these wars. The imbalance was to such a degree that it caused a planet to explode. So, I mean, that's sort of a big deal when you explode a planet. It's like, oh my God. And if you're dealing with that, and you are on that planet, you're dealing with a wound, a core wound. We're still carrying that core wound. So whatever planetary body we're on, we're connected to that planetary consciousness. So if that planet explodes and fragments, we also fragment. And so that's why it's been so easy to manipulate us, because we've been traumatized. And when we look at like the Baphomet and Satanism and what they've been doing, they've been feeding on that wound. So the Tiamat explosion is really where Satanism and sort of that ritual energy and manipulation of the Sophia energy and the exile of the Sophia energy and where the Essenes and the Templars and all their knowledge about the grids and alchemy, all that got wiped. But we sank into this lower harmonic universe, and the exploded planet Tiamat and Maldek being a 3D asteroid belt and Tiamat being a 5D asteroid belt, we were left with the asteroid belt, which is the exploded planets. When we look at what those asteroids are, and we look at the names, we get names like Eros, we get names like Vesta, we get names like Pallas Athene, the goddess of wisdom. So we start to see like, oh, and Persephone is like, wait a second, these are names of archetypes. And there's literally like, there's so many. When I do astrology readings, I probably work with 5 or 10 asteroids. But one of the really important asteroids is Chiron, because Chiron represents the need to recognize the wound. We're all born into this gaping wound. You know, no matter how great our childhood is, we're still wounded because, I mean, look at this world around us. We're dealing with, toxicity, pollution, extinctions, and all sorts of things that, represent, an absolute mistreatment, of the mother. So the closer we get to the mother and the more we can recognize her unconditional love and how much she, this whole planet was created because of the hybridization and manipulation. She wanted to come in and morph into this planet so that she could protect us on our soul journeys and ensure that we would return home and be freed from these influences that sought to digress us to the point of losing our connection with the mother. So you know what? The mother intervened. She became the living planet. And that's why this planet is under attack. That's why this planet is trashed. But we have to recognize we don't have to save Gaia. This planetary body is multidimensional. But we have to stand up and honor her and respect her and take care of her. But she, is going to be okay no matter what. But this is sort of a holding tank. She is willing to take these assaults at the detriment of this particular portion of her multidimensional body to help us to see where we're going wrong. Because everything that's contaminated in nature and all these different elements represents something contaminated within us. So if there's the sky's being sprayed and there's mind control, we got to look at our own minds. Did we buy into it? Same thing with the abuse of the fire element and the earth element, So when we work on purifying our negative ego, when we work on purifying our own elements, that's the purpose we all hold, and the earth responds to it, and that's the way that we can clean the environment. We think we got to go outside of ourselves, and yes, that helps too, but just doing the inner work and really working on the soul alchemy, which they took those teachings away from, but going back into it and listening to people who are kind of helping to bring that information forward will help to clear those energies. We also have to remember that when we go through the initiations and receive the downloads and switch on the dormant DNA, those are the higher earth energies. They are synonymous with our DNA strands. So if we awaken a 5th strand of DNA, we're on the 5th dimensional energy timeline. And so everybody's at a different level and stage, but there's also that ripple effect where if you achieve that, other people will be raised to that vibration without having to do anything. And you can say, yeah, you can thank me later. Like, you didn't have to do anything. So yeah, it's wild because, you know, when we think of DNA, we think of something more personal, but when we recognize that it holds all the energies of the ascension and higher earth energies and the energies of sacred union, and holds the restoration of this whole creation experience and heals all the galactic wars, then we can recognize that all the things that freak us out can be healed within us. And each individual can win the war. And the more we send out that frequency, the more we recognize that, you know, this is how, you know, it's going to change the game. We tend to externalize everything like it's all about, you know, what's outside of us. It's all about, to me, the soul architecture, and recognizing that these archetypes exist within us, and we need to harmonize them, and we need to come to terms with them, and we need to face the shadow side, embrace the light and dark, and not be at the mercy of all this, because we're empowered. We don't need to be at the mercy of all of this. We're the influencers. You know, we're the ones that can create exactly what we want. There's nothing to be afraid of. You know, let all the things that scare you remind you that this is a time of liberation, and find some joy and humor in the process, and you'll be so happy you did it, because the fun has just begun. It's been a really rough time, but really good things are ahead.
So Laura, there are going to be people that see this interview and really resonate with it. You offer quite a few services on your website. Would you like to give us a link to that website here, and also talk about some of the services that you offer?
Yes. So my website is lauraeisenhower.com. I do astrology readings, I do tarot readings, and I do clairvoyant counseling. I do 30-minute sessions, an hour session, 90 minutes, but I can tailor it to whatever you want. And I go into the deeper soul journey. I kind of go beyond conventional astrology. I look at soul-centered astrology, and also how to liberate yourself from the wheel. You know, and recognizing, like, you know, when we begin to move beyond these planetary forces, because we were able to connect with the higher octaves of the planetary bodies, we can then, you know, kind of move beyond that wheel, and that keeps that takes us out of the necessity of reincarnation, which actually the entry point into the world beyond that is the 13th gate. So I kind of help people to understand how to do that on a personal level. And then past the 13th, you got the 14th and 15th. And that's the whole Trinity. 13 is mother, 15 is father, and 14 in the middle is actually the daughter, son. It's not just the son, it's the Christ Sophia, and that template's within you. And these chakras are in places you wouldn't even imagine. So if you are able to see my presentations, you'll see some awesome pictures and images of how the energy body works and where these galactic chakras are. So it's all very simple. Watch out for the distractions. Watch out for the things that want to infect your creative energy. You know, and it's encoded in nature. It's like, you know, just let go of, you know, the rest of it. I mean, we're born into it, so it's hard to let it go. It's conditioned into us. But you know, don't be afraid. You can fall back on Mother Earth. This planet is made of unconditional love.
Laura, it's always a pleasure having your feminine presence here. We seem to be a kind of a male-dominated, you know, show at times. So it's always awesome to have people like you and Trisha McCannon and everybody we've interviewed, and our friend Lee Giradot. You know, it's always nice to have that female energy. So thank you for your time today, Laura. I really appreciate it, and it's just always a pleasure to see you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's just amazing, you know, to have just worked with you both, you know, for so many years, and I really appreciate just having a voice with you both. So thank you so much.
Thank you, LOC community. Hopefully more to come here from Contact in the Desert 2017. Have a good day. Much love.